the chains they forged. They came without warning. One morning, the skies over Earth turned silver as 1,000 warships blotted out the sun. Cities went quiet, not from awe, but from the suffocating weight of what we all knew deep down. We'd been claimed. I was a security officer then, stationed at the orbital dock over London. The Empire's ships moved like predators, graceful and merciless, settling into orbit as if they owned the place. Within hours, their soldiers, towering, four-armed brutes in glimmering armor, marched down our streets. They spoke in the slow, deliberate tone of victors, their translators spitting out the same words over and over. Compliance is prosperity. Rebellion is extinction. It wasn't just an invasion. It was a declaration of ownership. The first weeks were a blur of decrees and dismantling. Our governments were dissolved. Languages other than the approved Galactic Standard were outlawed. Schools were forced to teach Empire history and nothing else. The internet was scrubbed clean, every server purged and replaced with the Empire's propaganda feeds. Then came quotas. Every man, woman, and child was assigned productive service hours, work shifts so long that people collapsed in the streets. Miss a shift, and your family's food rations were cut. Question an order, and you disappeared. But the worst were the demonstrations. The Empire knew how to break spirits. Public executions broadcast to every home, every screen, every device. My younger brother, Daniel, was 19. He'd been studying mechanical engineering before the invasion. Quiet kid, stubborn when it mattered. One day, he refused to kneel when an alien governor passed by during a city inspection. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but the Empire noticed everything. They dragged him to the plaza. I tried to push through the crowd, but the soldiers held me back. The execution was swift, impersonal. They made sure the cameras caught every moment, his face defiant until the end. The governor addressed the crowd afterward. Let this be your example. The Empire does not tolerate insolence from lesser species. Something in me broke that day, but not the way they intended. The grief burned cold, sharp. They thought they were teaching fear. What they taught me was that nothing would ever make me kneel. And I wasn't alone. Whispers started in the shadows. Strangers exchanged glances that lingered a moment too long. Old radios were hidden away, tuned to static and hope. Smugglers risked their lives ferrying food and medicine past checkpoints. I began keeping a list, names of those willing to fight. At first, it fit on a scrap of paper. Within weeks, it filled a notebook. The Empire believed they'd chained us. In truth, they'd only linked us together. Every cruelty was another link in the chain, and every link could be shattered. They thought they broke us. They didn't understand. We were only sharpening our blades. Sparks in the ashes. Rebellion didn't start with bombs or battles. It started with a loaf of bread. An old woman in Sector 7 smuggled food to a family whose rations had been cut. She was caught, beaten in the street, and left for dead. The next night, 3 alien soldiers on patrol vanished without a trace. Their bodies were never found. The Empire called it a random incident. We called a message. I had taken a new name by then, Vance, and moved through the shadows as if I belonged there. The resistance was small, scattered, but alive. We met in basements, abandoned tunnels, old warehouses where the smell of oil and rust covered the scent of fear. We didn't have weapons worth the name, just knives, pistols, and tools repurposed into instruments of sabotage. But we had something the Empire couldn't manufacture: patience. The first real strike came in the form of darkness. The Empire's garrison in London went black for 12 hours after a power relay malfunctioned. In truth, our people had tunneled beneath it for weeks, planting a homemade EMP charge. We didn't kill anyone that night. We didn't have to. We wanted them to know we could touch them. From the alien side, the panic was immediate. Through intercepted transmissions, we heard High Admiral XYR talk demanding explanations. Human adaptability baffled them. Our ability to take primitive tools and twist them into something dangerous. To them, we were supposed to be docile labor, not a problem worth noting. They responded the only way they knew how: brutality. Mass relocations began. Entire neighborhoods were emptied and sent to compliance camps. Doctors were arrested for treating the injured without authorization. Patrols doubled. The curfew tightened. But every cruelty made recruitment easier. The farmer whose land was stolen became our supply officer. The dismissed schoolteacher became our codebreaker. Even some humans in the Empire's own workforce, translators, technicians, fed us information. Then came our first taste of real intelligence. A convoy guard defected, bringing with him a data chip stolen from the garrison's archives. It revealed something we hadn't dared hope for. The Empire's navy was stretched thin. Other rebellions were breaking out across the stars, small, scattered, but there. We weren't the only species fighting back. It changed everything. We weren't just resisting an overlord. We were part of a firestorm. That night, I recorded a message using one of our hidden transmitters. Humanity does not kneel. We rise. To every ear that can hear this, you are not alone. Fight. The broadcast lasted less than 30 seconds before they jammed it, but it didn't matter. Across Earth, in basements and barracks, in camps and factories, people heard it. I knew because the next morning, our channels were flooded with new names, new volunteers, and new promises of vengeance. The Empire thought they'd extinguish the flame. Instead, they gave it fuel. The fire we lit. We learned early that you couldn't win against the Empire by fighting fair. So we didn't. The turning point came when we ambushed an armored convoy outside Johannesburg. The Empire's soldiers were transporting plasma rifles and armor plating to a secure depot. We hit them with homemade explosives under a collapsed overpass, striking before they could radio for help. By the time the dust settled, we had 20 rifles, 6 suits of alien armor, and our first real taste of their technology. The Empire's weapons weren't invincible, just over-engineered. Their rifles required biometric keys, but our engineers, mechanics, hackers, even a few teenagers with too much curiosity, cracked the locks within days. Suddenly, our firepower tripled. With the rifles came confidence. We launched simultaneous strikes in 3 cities: New York, Berlin, and Nairobi. In New York, our people sabotaged the orbital elevator's control hub, sending cargo pods crashing back to Earth. In Berlin, snipers picked off alien officers in broad daylight. In Nairobi, a resistance cell hacked into the local garrison's broadcast feed and replaced it with footage of humans burning the Empire's banners. The psychological damage was worse than the physical. The Empire prided itself on control. We made control look like an illusion. In the cracks of their authority, other truths leaked through. Intercepted communications revealed what we had suspected. Human victories were being watched across the galaxy. In distant systems, alien species whispered the word Earth like it was a spell. Some even started their own uprisings inspired by us. Not that the Empire intended to let it continue. Admiral Xwartok ordered a crackdown so severe it bordered on desperation. Airstrikes on suspected rebel districts, entire city blocks leveled, civilian casualties brushed off as necessary pacification. They thought terror would scare us back into silence. Instead, it made us bolder. Our greatest victory came at the Luna shipyards. The Empire had been building a cruiser there for years, intending it as the flagship for planetary suppression. It was 70% complete when we hit them. It wasn't a battle, it was a theft. We infiltrated in stolen uniforms, took control of the ship's automated systems, and cut its comms before anyone realized what was happening. When the Empire's fleet arrived to stop us, they were met with their own cruiser, its cannons manned by human hands, firing into their ranks. The battle lasted 3 hours. When the smoke cleared, 2 enemy destroyers were drifting wrecks, and the cruiser, our cruiser, jumped back to Earth orbit, intact. It was the first time in recorded history that a subjugated species had stolen and used an Imperial warship against them. That night, we celebrated in the cruiser's hangar, the human flag draped over alien steel. From his throne world, the Emperor himself issued a command that shook the stars. Earth will burn. Leave nothing alive. I smiled when I heard it. Finally, they'd stopped underestimating us. Now we could truly hurt them. The Empire's shattered crown. The Emperor's order was carried out with terrifying precision. Their armada arrived like a tidal wave, hundreds of warships, each bristling with enough firepower to level continents. To them, it was the largest punitive strike in centuries. To us, it was the final test. But Earth was no longer the broken world they had first conquered. In the shadows of their occupation, we had been building asteroid defense platforms, orbital mines, and fleets of captured or reconstructed alien ships. Our stolen cruiser, now christened Defiance, stood at the tip of the spear. The battle began above the Pacific. The Empire's forward fleet moved to clear the orbital mines, expecting crude explosives. Instead, the mines detonated in precision patterns, crippling entire squadrons and forcing the rest into narrow kill zones. Our fighters swarmed in, half of them human-built hybrids, half stolen Empire craft painted with Terran colors. They moved like ghosts, slipping through enemy formations, cutting engines, and vanishing before the Empire could retaliate. From the Bridge of Defiance, I watched the flagship Vigilant lumber forward, its shields shimmering under a barrage of our fire. "Target their comm array," I ordered. "Cut them off from their fleet." When the flagship's comm tower exploded, chaos rippled through the Empire's armada. Without centralized commands, their perfect formation fractured. Ships began fighting blind, firing into empty space or colliding with one another. Then came the moment we'd planned for. Allied fleets, rebels from 5 different species, burst from hyperspace, hitting the Empire from behind. We weren't just defending Earth anymore. We were leading a war for the galaxy. The Defiance cut through enemy lines, its plasma cannons tearing apart ships twice its size. Our boarding teams stormed the Vigilant, fighting deck to deck until I stood face to face with Admiral HFY. "You were meant to be broken," he hissed through bloodied mandibles. I leveled my rifle. "You broke yourselves." One shot ended the war for Earth's skies. Without their flagship, the remaining Imperial ships scattered. Some tried to retreat, others surrendered outright. Our allies chased the fleeing vessels, carrying the fight to other worlds still under the Empire's grip. In the days that followed, the collapse spread like wildfire. Alien colonies rose up. Governors abandoned their posts. Systems declared independence faster than the Empire could respond. Their 1,000-year reign ended not with a decisive battle on their throne world, but with a fracture they could never repair, born here on the planet they thought was theirs. Weeks later, I stood at my brother's grave in the liberated city of London. The air was clean, the sky free of warships. Around us, the banners of the Free Systems Alliance hung where the Empire's insignia once loomed. We weren't the strongest, I told the silence. We weren't the oldest, but we were the most stubborn. And that was enough. Above the capital, our flag flew, not as a symbol of dominance, but of defiance. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity refused to kneel.